Welcome back, everyone, to another Teaching Tuesday. I'm James Hutchison, and I've got a setup tip for you today to make sure you're getting in the most advantageous position before we start the golf swing. So there's three things I want you to focus on in your setup. First one's really easy. It's going to be our stance width. Okay. I see a lot of people either too narrow or most often too wide. And if we're too wide, it prevents you from being able to turn and create power. Okay, so a good rule of thumb is just hip width if we're hitting a 7-iron, maybe just outside hip width, but certainly we don't want to be shoulder or outside of shoulder width because that's too wide. Okay, so we're going to be hip width with our stance. The next thing we're going to focus on is our wrists and where they are in relation to our shoulders. Okay. So again, I see a lot of people who tend to reach for the golf ball. So from this angle, it's going to look too reachy like that. You see there's a lot of space. And then occasionally you see people who get their hands right between their knees and now they don't have any space. So a good rule of thumb, or if you just want to check in with where your joints are aligned, we want to feel like our wrists are kind of almost right under our shoulders or maybe just outside our shoulders. So one way to do it is just to kind of drop the club, get in your setup, and then let your wrists, let your arms hang from the shoulder joints. Okay, then you can grab your club again. And that should put you in a pretty decent position. Okay, we don't need to do any stretching or any crumpling up. Okay, so the third thing I want to do for a setup check-in is just make sure our back is nice and flat. Okay, and that's more talking about your lower back than your upper back. Okay, so if your upper back is a little rounded, that's normal. Most people do that. Even golf professionals do that, right? But the thing we don't see a lot of golf pros do is this rounding of the low back like this. That's what we'd call C posture, or what we'll call S postures, where we get into this kind of looking where you see a big curve in the low back. So both of those are going to prevent you from making big turns, and they're also going to introduce the possibility of injury. So when you get set up, if you have a mirror at home, let's make sure the stance is good, the wrists are under the shoulders, and we've got a nice flat lower back. We're not S postured, and we're certainly not tucked under like that, okay? So just a nice flat back. If you can do those three things, get really good at it over the winter, and then you'll come out in the spring and you'll find everything is just that little bit easier. Your body's going to feel better, you're going to make a bigger turn, and things will be much more consistent.